In this video, I will be ranking the top 3 Pokemon games in the series. I will start by going over each of what I consider to be the top 5 games, discussing what makes them so special, and then ranking the top 3, eventually crowning one game as the best in the series. However, before we rank anything, we need to discuss the top 5 games and recognize what makes them so good, some of their shortcomings, and why the community loves them so much. Without further ado, let's get this started. Here's how this is going to work. I am going to briefly go over each of the games in the top 5 in no particular order. We will review everything that makes the game special, what holds them back, and move on to the next game from there. Once all 5 games have been reviewed, we will rank them from 3rd to 1st. I want to make it clear though, every single game that I'm about to cover is a fantastic game. Just because something doesn't make top 3 doesn't mean I think it's a bad game. I don't want to see anything like that. If you have any differing thoughts or opinions, please feel free to leave them down below. I always love interacting with you all and would love to hear your opinions on these games. Here we go. Pokémon Emerald is everything that a third version of a game should be. It directly addresses the issues that held back Ruby and Sapphire, like the poor balancing as an example. While Ruby and Sapphire are great games, Emerald is the polished version of both games in one. The main example of this is how Emerald tuned up the gym leaders. Norman always gave me problems as a kid, and the other gym leaders will humble you in a heartbeat if you sleep on them. The best part of Pokemon Emerald is that it respects you as a player and knows that there is more to Pokemon games than just going from gym to gym. The battle frontier is goated, and the contests were a ton of fun. I would spend hours upon hours in Battle Factory, not just in Emerald, but in the Sinnoh region games as well. Emerald also included both region exclusives of Ruby and Sapphire. Although some Pokemon were cut, it added much more than it removed. Speaking of bringing things together, Emerald also brought both villain organizations and made them both involved in the story, which gave us the legendary Rayquaza cutscene. Other fun features include the secret bases and underwater areas. Both were a nice cherry on top of the game. They could have been fleshed out more, but they were great as is. Pokemon Emerald is not a game without flaw though. While the game doesn't have a whole lot of issues, it's still not perfect. The main issue that I have with Emerald, as well as Ruby and Sapphire, is that they lack backwards compatibility with Generation 2. There was no way to send Pokemon from Generations 1 or 2 to Generation 3. It was, in a way, the original Dexit. The other main issue that I have with Emerald is that Wallace is a weak champion. Thankfully though, Steven can be battled in post-game as the true final boss, so I'm calling this a minor issue. Pokemon Black 2 White 2 is a sequel game that understands what made its prequel special and listens to its audience on what it was lacking. These games were also the true peak of Pokemon, because after this game, it was all downhill and has been ever since. One of the biggest complaints that people had on the first game was that it only had new Pokemon. However, Black 2 and White 2 came in and completely redid the Unova Dex, giving us a much more diverse roster of Pokemon from the beginning. Early game Riolu was also super hype. Black 2 White 2 also returned the characters you loved from the first game. Cheren and Bianca both returned, and with new roles after the first game. The Unova region itself also changed. With new locations, changed towns and routes, the Unova region has the familiarity of the first game, but the freshness of an entirely new game. It introduced the World Tournament, which features every gym leader and champion from the previous games. It also has an incredible roster of legendary Pokemon and other interactable Pokemon for you to encounter. The hidden grottos were also a fun new addition to the game. There is so much to search for throughout this game and so much to explore. On the side, Iris was a great champion with a tough team. Also, swarms returning is always a nice feature to see. If you like hunting Pokemon, then Black 2 White 2 is absolutely the game for you. Finding things that Black 2 White 2 did wrong is hard to do. However, I don't think it's controversial to say that the story, while engaging and solid, definitely took a step back from the first game. I like Getsis and Team Plasma, but it felt like they were a minor inconvenience at best, compared to the previous game where they were everywhere and slowly changing the minds of the people of Unova into considering their relationship with Pokemon, even capturing the legendary Pokemon before you. The other issue that I have personally with Black 2 White 2 is that the challenge mode was locked behind a ridiculous wall of conditions. Why wasn't this available from the beginning? Pokemon could really benefit from having a difficulty setting instead of assuming that all players are little Timmies who've never played a video game before. Pokemon Platinum was the third version of the games that got me really into the Pokemon games to begin with. I will be setting my personal bias aside for Platinum and giving it straight to you all. Just like Emerald, Pokemon Platinum addressed the problems of Diamond and Pearl by introducing more fire types, speeding the game up, making gyms tougher, and fixed the post-game by adding more to do. Platinum's biggest strength is its post-game. The Battle Frontier returns from Emerald yet again, and the new Resort House makes its debut. The Resort House is where you buy furniture to decorate by completing quests and achievements to unlock them. This allowed you to rematch gym leaders with new teams. Although it's not post-game exclusive, the Sinnoh Underground is another classic feature. I spent countless hours in the Sinnoh Underground, both solo and with friends. Contests make their return also, and are still just as fun as they used to be. There are so many ways to spend your time in Platinum. Cynthia is the greatest champion in the entire series, bar none. Her theme triggers PTSD in anyone who grew up in Sinnoh like I did. Modern little Timmies have no idea what we used to have to overcome to become champions. Unlike the modern games, which hand you a free win and still claim that the challenge was probably too much. Champions like Cynthia were out for blood and humbled you if you weren't on your A game. Platinum, along with the other Gen 4 games, also addressed the issues of backwards compatibility that Generation 3 created. The PAL Park was a great feature that finally allowed us to have our Hoenn friends join us in Sinnoh. While some were upset that it was locked in post-game, I personally wasn't bothered by it. Speaking of backwards compatibility, the Sinnoh games had the Insert GBA feature, which I personally liked. Having a GBA game of Generation 3 inserted into your DS Lite would let you capture out-of-region Pokemon. While the roster was small, it was a very nice feature. While Platinum was a massive step up from Diamond and Pearl, it still had a number of issues that players had to put up with. The first one is the Reverse World. While it was a really cool new area and was heavily marketed, there was absolutely nothing to do there once you finished the Team Galactic arc. It was empty and extremely underdeveloped and underused. HMs are still a huge problem in Sinnoh. The developers had the opportunity to dial back the number of HMs you need to progress the game, but they didn't. Your team will always be affected by the disease known as 8 different HMs. While the game is faster than Diamond and Pearl, it's still super slow. I respect them trying to speed the game up after community complaints, but it was nowhere near as much as they should have. Other various problems in Platinum include PAL Park being locked to 1 use per day, which is incredibly annoying. Also, Rotom's forms being locked behind a Wi-Fi event that is no longer available and hasn't been since 2009. Why did it have to be locked behind an event? The room is right there. Why not just make it available? Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the shining examples of what a remake is supposed to be. It takes in most issues that people had with the originals and fixes them while adding on to the originals. The main word to describe Heart Gold and Soul Silver is content. This game prioritizes content, and boy is it loaded with it. There is so much to love about Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Starters include my personal favorite feature in the game, the Pokeathlon. I couldn't tell you how many hours I lost to this mode. The best part is that you can use it to get some good items, and it's not even post-game. Heart Gold and Soul Silver also returned the Kanto region and showed it some love in addition to the Johto region. The Sinnoh Battle Frontier also makes another appearance, giving you even more reasons to spend your time in this game. Heart Gold Soul Silver also addressed the issues from Gold and Silver, where the new Generation 2 Pokemon weren't available until late game or end game by bringing in a Safari Zone. This Safari Zone is not like any other Safari Zone because this one is customizable and has quests and objectives for you to do to unlock more areas for it. Heart Gold Soul Silver also introduced the Follower Pokemon. Instead of just a Pikachu following you around, it could be any Pokemon in the game. So even that little Torchic you've had since Ruby and Sapphire can be seen following you around. Heart Gold Soul Silver also came with the Pokewalker, so you could capture Pokemon and get items just by walking around. There was the bug catching contest that could be done twice a week. The berry planters were introduced, so you no longer needed to run around the region just to farm berries. Gym leader rematches also make their return, but with 16 gym leaders this time. There was the Poke Radio that could help you find swarms and other rare encounters to help you fill out your decks or expand your team. There was even a ton of gift Pokemon that you got from just playing the game, such as a starter of your choice from Generations 1 and 3. Heart Gold Soul Silver is loaded with content for anyone to enjoy. While Heart Gold and Soul Silver are massive step-ups from their originals, they still have one massive issue that they didn't fix. The issue is the extremely poor level curves. While I understand they are made that way, so you could take gyms 5, 6, and 7 in any order, it still makes for a ridiculously easy game. Having a champion whose ace is level 50 is insanely low. You'll be ready for the Elite Four after the 6th or 7th gym. It's sad that this issue wasn't fixed. Pokemon Black and White are the games that for the first time in the series prioritized its story as the main crutch of the experience. What also made Black and White unique is that it featured entirely new Pokemon for the entire main game, only bringing back the older generation Pokemon in post-game. While many did not like it, I myself wasn't super upset about it. Although at least a few old Pokemon sprinkled in here and there wouldn't have hurt. The story of Black and White was great. While a bit simple, it featured arguably the most believable villain group in Team Plasma. This group actually made the people of the Unova region think about their relationships with their Pokemon. You could absolutely see a Team Plasma actually existing as like a radicalized PETA or something. N is the best rival in the series. He uses Pokemon from nearby routes anytime he battles you while hiding his main team the entire time. He captures the legendary Pokemon before you and uses it to defeat the champion before you, and pressures the entire region into releasing their Pokemon. Name me one rival that got as much done as N. The gym leaders are also the most involved in Pokemon Black and White than any other game in the series. The way they all pull up to N's castle, ready to throw hands with the Plasma Sages, was insanely hype. Black and White also introduced the animated sprites to the series, which was incredible at the time of their release. I'll be honest, I wish Pokemon went back to these. The modern 3D models just don't have the same soul as them. The last and arguably biggest pro to Pokemon Black and White is the Driftvale City theme. Enough has been said. The interesting thing about Black and White is that what many would consider to be pros of the game, others consider cons, and what some call cons, others consider pros. So if you disagree with me on any of these, just know that I fully understand. I would still love to hear your thoughts though. The biggest issue that I have with Black and White is how hollow the post game is. You have the Alder fight, the hunt for the Plasma Sages, and that's about it. There isn't much to do. The Battle Frontier is gone, the World Tournament doesn't exist yet, and there aren't many routes to explore after you finish the main story. Sure, you have the Battle Subway, but who actually played that as much as the Battle Frontier, or even just the Battle Tower? The other issue I have with Black and White is that the curved experience gain is slow and annoying. I don't mind the game trying to keep you from over leveling, but the grind is just horrible. Sure, there are Audino you can find as EXP tanks, but even finding them can be slow and tedious and involves just running back and forth. Remember the global link? It was supposed to be this big feature of the game, but it was tedious to set up, buried in the game, and just not much fun to use. I loved the concept of everything it was trying to do, but it just was not user-friendly and a pain in my opinion. Those are the games that I consider to be in the top 5 Pokemon games in the series. How does the community feel though? I did a poll in the community tab here on the channel asking you all what you consider to be the best Pokemon game in the series. I was stunned when I saw just how much you all love Black 2 and White 2. I'm not trying to say you're wrong, I'm just saying that I didn't expect it to be that large of a margin. I would like to point out though that I had recently released my Pokemon Black 2 video, so it might be recency bias affecting the poll. Either way, you all made it clear that you love Black 2 and White 2. I also decided to look for other polls around the internet to see what the greater Pokemon community sentiment is. I ignored tier lists because so many people enjoy making rage bait lists, and the opinion of one person does not reflect that of the entire community. Anyways, every single poll that I could find that had a decent voter turnout consistently had Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Black 2, White 2 in the top 2 games. I'll throw a couple examples on screen. I would like to remind you all that these polls will not affect which games I place in my top 3 at the end of the video. Remember, these are all just my opinions and where I stand on them. So, now that I've gone over each of my top 5 Pokemon games, it's time we give them my final rankings. This was actually a pretty hard ranking to do. Each of these games are very good and very special to me as I played all of them growing up. Talking about these games reminds me of just how far Pokemon games have fallen off since the start of Gen 6. Maybe one day we'll return to form, but it definitely won't be happening with Game Freak. Anyways, coming in at number 3, I have Pokemon Platinum. While Platinum is slow and has way too many HMs required to use to finish the game, the amount of content in post-game justifies putting up with it. From the Underground, to the Battle Frontier, and the solid difficulty, capped off by the greatest champion in the franchise, there is so much to appreciate about Platinum, despite its flaws. Here comes the controversy. You ready? In second place, I have Black 2 and White 2. With an incredible roster of Pokemon and a great cast of characters, Black 2 and White 2 are an incredible sequel that one-ups the first game in the series. With the World Tournament and all the legendary Pokemon, there's plenty in the post-game to keep you busy. This was a loaded game that told us players at the time that Game Freak cares about our feedback. If only they still felt the same way today. We've made it, fellas. The moment you've all been waiting for. In first place, in what I consider to be the best Pokemon game, I have Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. The games that did everything they could to load up with as much content as possible. You have the Safari Zone, the Pokeathlon, Battle Frontier, Bug Catching Contest, Gym Leader rematches, all topped off with a second region and a battle against Red. Heart Gold and Soul Silver might have the worst level curves in the series, but there is endless content to keep you and your friends busy for hours on end, and that justifies to me overlooking its issues. It's an incredible game that no doubt has created countless memories for countless people such as myself. This was a fun little video to work on. It was a lot of fun to remember these games and all the memories that I have with them during my research. All of these games are incredible and serve as a constant reminder that they just don't make them like they used to. What are your thoughts on this? What are your top 3 or top 5 games in the series, and what do you like most about those games? I would like to take a quick moment to thank you all for your time and for watching this video. If you enjoy Pokemon content, you might like the video on Pokemon Black 2 I did back in November, where I attempted to beat the game using only bug-type Pokemon. It was a great video and I'm sure you would enjoy it. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot to me if you would consider leaving a like on it. It helps grow the channel. If you like the content here, you should subscribe so you don't miss out. The next challenge video will be another Pokemon game, so I hope you're excited. Thank you all for your time and constant support on the channel. Whether you watched a little bit of this video or the entire video, in one viewing or multiple, your support means a lot to me. Thank you for supporting a small channel like this one. With that being said, I'm going to get up out of here, and I will see you all later. Bye for now.